it's the best place to do comedy in the world. There's nothing like the Cellar to me. I love it.
What do you? I mean, I feel like there's always a little like East Coast, West Coast rivalry on that. What they, the Cellar here and the store out there.
I don't really
right?
work the store. When I go out there, I'll do like the Improv or Laugh Factory. They have a whole weird thing about like, oh, you're not like a paid regular or whatever. And
really,
I'm sure if I badgered, I could
can't be
get
like
my way in. But I want to go where I'm wanted. That's kind of where
that makes sense.
And the Laugh Factory is always like they always like just throw me up when I'm there. So there are shows I get up on, but yeah, no, the store's a great club. Obviously,
right.
It's
what's the worst place you've been? We've been asking a lot of this recently. What's the worst city?
I mean, worst city.
I mean, Naples.
And
right?
Naples is fucking horrible. That club is. I know I've burnt that one to the ground, but like, it's so funny. I said something about it sucking and the club sucking, and someone wrote underneath like, enough. Like we're doing a hard job here, and I saw the comedy club liked that tweet. So I'm like, oh, they're seeing what I'm doing. Yeah, Naples, Florida. You know why Naples, Florida is terrible? Because they don't respect comedy. They just kind of look at you. I talked to someone recently who said like, I've talked to like comics who are pretty successful who are like, yeah, they just are like, they see you and then they're like, oh, we've seen him now. We can just talk. Like, they don't want to see the show. They're just like, oh, a famous person. And with me, they're like, yeah, we don't even give a shit. Like, you're nothing to us. So they talk through the show. That's one of the worst gigs ever.
Where were you for that latest crowd work bit? The 23-year-old with 3 kids.
That was in Indianapolis. I had a great time.
That was fucking
Indie
funny,
crowds are fucking great.
They're
so great.
I'm always so surprised by like the amount of characters or circumstances that come out of like crowd work where it's just like there are fucking characters
I do
everywhere,
so many. People are always like, how does this keep happening? I'm like, I do so many shows. Like that's the thing. It's like I just kind of have the cameras rolling because like
all the time,
I feel like I have to throw shit up to promote gigs, and then I don't want to burn material. So I'm like, we'll just do crowd work or a topical joke that I'll never tell again.
Right.
So indie. I was kind of like, do I have the cameras rolling? I had a camera guy in St. Louis, but I just go through Instagram to find these people usually locally. And this guy's like, well, I'm not a cameraman, but I have the 2 cameras set up. I can do all that. And I was like, oh, he's like, I'm a finance guy, but I'm a fan. And I was like, all right. Shows up off his ass drunk. Like literally a pint of bourbon like this of Blanton. So he's like a top shelf drunk too. Good shit. He just killed the whole pint, and then he came in for more. I was like, this is fucking dangerous. Yeah. He was hammered. I was like, did he get the footage? He sent it to me. I'm like all washed out. I'm like, I thought you said this was 4K, dude. So I was like, all right, I better get a real cameraman.
Do you pay him for that?
Trust random drunks on the road. Who knew?
No, I didn't pay him. Fuck him. He didn't do anything. I don't think he also said you don't have to pay me. I was like, good.
Goddamn right I
did a horrible job.
Yeah.
I'll pay you if you do the job. So then, indie. I kind of I'd been there before, and I was like, I know they drink. I know they're good. It's one of those things where you're like, it's kind of the perfect mix for like good crowd work, where it's people who are not, they're uninhibited, but they're also
they're gonna be quiet.
They're
gonna
cool.
Be assholes. Yeah.
No, they're just cool crowds. They're great. They're great crowds in indie.
And so, aside from Naples, because that was like the big joke, but is there just a town that you
Reno,
just, like,
Nevada sucked.
Dude, I've been to Reno once. I was skiing out in Lake Tahoe.
It's a soulless place. I feel like.
Is really
Oh, it's bad. Vegas sucks. And then you go to Reno. You're like, how about Vegas, but worse in every way?
Yeah.
I remember opening my shows in Reno. I said, I was in a casino, and I said, man, this is great. I've never seen fake tits in an oxygen tank on the same people. That's kind of how it felt. You're just like, just in Reno, Nevada. You're like, I bombed so hard there. And I remember after the gig, it was like 10 years ago, I was like, never again. And then the offer came in next year, and I was like, is there anything else? And I was like, no. I'm like, all right,
here we go.
I'm back.
When I was in Reno, I was like, I was going to Lake Tahoe, and we just stopped there for the night. Like we got in late, so we rented a car in the morning to drive to Lake Tahoe. And my
That's
buddies,
supposed to be nice, Lake Tahoe.
Lake Tahoe's we were just going skiing.
Yeah.
But like the nearest airport is Reno, so that's where you kind of fly in. So we got in late. We're renting cars in the morning. We're staying at a casino that night, and my buddy called me, and he's like, dude, you want to go down, like, have a drink, play some games? I was like, man, honestly, just walking through there was so depressing. I'd rather sit in my my hotel room alone for the entire night than see any of that shit again at all. It was so fucking sad.
And people who know John's more bleak and depressing than any of the people he saw. Choosing yourself, your own company for you, that's
just walking around that
ugly.
floor. I was like, I
dude,
can't
it
do
was
this again.
I remember I was there and they were like, "You're doing morning press," so I had to like go outside the casino at like 6 a.m. The amount of characters, I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna get stabbed."
Yeah.
And they took their sweet time to get me. I'm just standing there. They're like,
Sure.
"We'll be there when we're there."
Yeah.
I'm like, then of course they drop me off. This is classic bad comedy club shit. They drop me off the radio, then just no one's there to pick me up, and I'm like, "Well, how do I get back?" This is like 2012 or something. I'm like, there's not like Uber. I'm like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Maybe there was Uber, but it was like shitty. I don't.
Yeah.
So it was like a whole thing. And
There wasn't Uber in Reno in 2012.
Probably not.
Maybe in New York City.
Like
there
San
definitely
Fran
wasn't.
and New York. That was it.
It was rough, man. That was a rough one. But like, you're just kind of like, I just need to work, you know.
What do you think is? Are you just gonna do like stand up? Like, do you have aspirations to like write comedy, like sitcoms or cartoons?
I wrote
and shit like
an
that?
animated show with Dana Gould that I love, and we just couldn't sell it. It's kind of like it was a superhero show, and there's just corporate strangulation on every network where they're just like, we have a deal with Marvel, we can't even hear the pitch. We have a deal with DC, we can't even hear the pitch. We're animating The Boys at Amazon for some reason.
Can't do that.
Really?
Yeah, it's like you're just fucked. I mean, so it's like it's a great show, and I love it, and we worked on it for like 7 months.
Is that something you could put out on your own?
Animation's really
tough,
expensive,
right? Yeah.
and also to do it right, it'd be tough. Right. But I still think we'll make it someday. Dana's such a brilliant mind for comedy. He really is. Like, I mean, he wrote for The Simpsons for like 10 years.
Okay.
He created Stand Against Evil on IFC.
Got it.
You know, he's a great stand-up. So I mean,
the reason
we'll make it some
I
point.
asked was like, are you going to try to take the whole idea of like, I'll just do it by myself to other, other realms of entertainment?
It's a good question.
It worked, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like the special is in the millions, and everybody like. I mean, I've always said I think you were kind of the first person to put like your special out on there and really.
No, Schultz was before.
And
me.
I know you say that,
me.
but
Yeah,
like Schultz was like an internet guy as is. I feel like you were like a comedy guy who was trying to be on a special on a streaming service, and then just fucking went with it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it,
Well,
like,
he saw it. He
kind
of saw it before the rest of us. You know, Andrew really had the foresight that the rest of us didn't. But I think
the rest of you fucking morons were like, what's the internet? I'm just gonna go on the club in front of 72 people every night.
I'm gonna go on the TV
Fucking
still.
morons.
I'm gonna go on cable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Watch
can't
my
wait to get on
special
the
at
Tonight
11
Show for
p.m.
4 minutes at 11 o'clock
I'm
at
still
night.
doing late. I'm still submitting.
You gotta,
late night sets.
but it's not.
They're
it's
still
not
fun
what
to
it
do.
Yeah, I would always be honored to
I
do
have,
it, but it's
cool
not like
stories
you can
from
get on there
doing-
and it doesn't do
Yeah.
anything. Like you're not in. You haven't made it because of that anymore.
I know it's a
You know?
bummer because it's so much harder to construct late night sets than it is to just like go on a podcast.
Sure.
But like it's just so much more like honing and like figuring out like placing jokes.
Yeah,
But
what's allowed.
I remember
I
the
know.
book in Robin about Robin Williams. It's not an autobiography. It's after he was dead. But they talk about how like when he came up, if you got 15 or 5 minutes on Carson, it's like the next week you got a show.
Yeah,
Isn't that
like,
crazy?
you're a made man.
As soon as you did that, it's like
I feel
okay,
like
you're done.
now there's so many comics. We missed everything. Back in the 90s, I talked to comics who were like, if you went to the Montreal Comedy Festival, you got like a $750,000 holding deal.
Shit.
But by the time I went to Montreal, I got a mediocre agent. That was my prize. Like the woman who repped me was actually very good, but the agency was terrible.